Ah,
Hello, everybody. Another webinar here from Matt Penfold, Paul Correa from Fiduciary Wealth Management. And today we are talking about visas in Spain. So this webinar is mainly aimed at Brits. Of course, post-Brexit, now we need a visa to come and live in Spain or other EU countries. And so I'm sure you want to know the visa routes that allow you to do so. There's been some changes, especially with the golden visa. So Paul, can you kick us off? Tell us a little bit about visas in Spain.
well, I mean, the golden visa has been effectively shut down. I think the law has been passed, but I think it'll probably effective March. And that is not no longer a pathway to residency in Spain or second home because it's, the length of time it takes to get your golden visa. It's simply not enough time to get the paperwork through. So we have to discard the golden visa as a route to residency or a plan B, yeah, second home. So that leaves us with a couple of options: the non-lucrative Spanish non-lucrative visa
Yeah.
for retirees, the digital nomad visa, which is relatively new and I think has been very poorly drafted. And what I see online is that um, not even the practitioners and the professionals really know how to go about processing the cases, and the government keeps changing its interpretation. There's the entrepreneur's visa, and then finally there's a highly qualified professional visa, but that's more difficult because that's the one where the Spanish employer has to, I don't know whether recommend or or process the visa on your behalf on the basis that it cannot be filled by a candidate locally.
Yeah.
So Matt, what can you tell us about those types of visas in Spain?
Yeah, so I think you're right with a highly qualified professional visa. Yeah, it's going to be for someone with very kind of unique skills. I think that you're right, Paul. The employer has to process part of that and they have to demonstrate. And it might even be that they demonstrate that there's not any other viable candidates in the EU because they look at it as a collective. So it's rare for that visa. It's there will be people with kind of unique skills, but is very rarely used. The most common we see is a non-lucrative visa, which is aimed at retirees. I think a question that people ask a lot is, well, I still want to do some work. Can I still work? And you are forbidden to work on the non-lucrative visa. So it is for those who have retired. You don't necessarily have to reach what we deem to be official retirement age if you're fortunate enough to retire early. The main criteria is that you are able to demonstrate that you have sufficient income to
Sustain yourself.
yes, sustain yourself, make sure you're not a burden on the state. So um the income requirement, I think it's just gone up this year since we've had the turn of the calendar year. I think it's just under around kind of 30,000 euros, another kind of 7.5 around euros per additional family member as well. You can only really bring your dependents, so that will be your spouse, uh, children under 18 are children who are, dependent on you. Um, and as part of that visa, you need to prove you've got those income or funds. So that can be from rental income, maybe from UK property, pension income, savings and investments. And they do define, okay, you need 30,000 in income, but it can be savings as well. So if you had an investment pot of, I don't know, 1 million euros or pounds, you would able to demonstrate that you could have that income. You can also have a kind of mix of income and investments, but the level of the savings is a little bit kind of vague when they do the applications. You need to have an address in Spain when you apply for the visa. That's a tricky one. We've recently talked about property in Spain. People might want to have a look at that webinar because there's been a few changes. You need to have a clean criminal record and you need to prove you've got healthcare coverage as well. So for some people, this will be private health insurance. Some people may be able to use an S1 to demonstrate that they can transfer their UK medical requirements to Spain. Again, we've recently recorded a different webinar about healthcare in Spain. So yeah, feel free to have a look at that. Um, the entrepreneur's visa, again, that's a little bit similar to the high qualified one in the sense that they're a little bit strict on this. This is our, as the name suggests, this is for people who want to kind of set up the business, but it's not really open for any old business. They want innovative businesses, those that kind of promote the socio-economic development of Spain. So I see a lot of people kind of aiming for that, are people maybe looking at kind of tech-based companies. Um, for more kind of traditional businesses that are already kind of commonplace in Spain, they're unlikely to kind of approve that. Again, similar to the highly qualified professional visa, they want people who are bringing in skills, you know, work that is different to what's already established. So if you're saying, okay, I want to come and be an entrepreneur and I'm going to set up my, I don't know, building company or, open a bar or something like that. There's plenty of those in Spain, so unlikely that that visa would be would be approved. And then, as you say, Paul, that the digital nomad visa, and it seems from my point of view that a lot of countries were introducing these digital nomad visas. There was a demand for it, especially kind of post-COVID, and Spain as I don't know, would you say kind of rush through this and is not entirely kind of clear of there are people who are being able to establish it. Um, and the digital nomad one is an interesting one because you can combine that with a Beckham law as well. So from a kind of tax point of view, that one's interesting as
You
well.
can and you cannot. I think when
Okay.
it comes to the practical implementation, I've found a few difficulties. The professionals don't know what they're doing. The government, in fairness, haven't given them a steer and direction, and they kind of struggle. And what's particularly interesting, Matt, and you mentioned the entrepreneur visa and the highly qualified professional visa. I mean, I've spoken to so many professionals now because we've had cases we had to process, and I had one a couple of weeks ago, and the response is always the same. I don't really fully understand how it works, and I really don't think we, as a firm, we want to get involved. And the simple answer is it's so gray and so unclear
Yeah.
that most firms just want to handle, not every firm, the non-lucrative visa because it's correctly drafted, it's clear, cut and dry. There's no ambiguity, there's no uncertainty, but they don't want to get involved in the other visas. It's you know it's a sledgehammer to crack a nut. They could have kept it, used simpler language and a more easier way to follow it through. But even the law professionals are struggling. That is my experience. And this
Yeah.
is not one firm. I've spoken to at least four or five, and it's all always back and forth, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know, but it's not because they are inept, unprofessional. It's because, you know, they've been set up to fail with the way it's
Yeah.
been drafted. So it's very, very difficult, these visas, very complicated.
Yeah.
And
I
especially as you rightly said, as I said, when you try and combine it with a Beckham law, it's, you really struggle to find a professional that can combine a visa with a Beckham law. The Beckham law works, it's clear. It's just finding a visa because they're not a perfect fit.
yeah. Yeah. No, it's very specialized, as you say, because there are not so many of these applicants, then the professionals don't have the experience of pushing these forward. And also from my experience, we've naturally seen more people come across on the non-lucrative visa. And you have one people say, "Oh, I was able to do this." And then another person maybe applies a couple of months later and said, "Oh, they didn't allow me to do this. I needed, for example, the uh, with the healthcare cover, I know some people have been able to say, okay, here's my S1, that covers my health insurance. Whereas other people said, no, we don't accept the health one. you need private medical cover, and then you can go through the healthcare process when you arrive. So I think, as with many of these things, it changes depending on who's looking at the application, depends on which department or which region is looking at it.
I fully agree. I mean, funnily enough, it leads on to what I wanted to say. During the summer, we had this case, and I ended up, we are part of a investment migration network, one of the largest globally, because we do international relocation. And I spoke to a professional guy who had businesses in Dubai, Spain, 4 or 5 countries doing precisely visas and getting people into the country. And I wanted to do the Beckham law with a visa. And this was the summer, must have been July. He never got back to me. His prices were through the roof, but he never got back to me. He didn't know. And his response was, even though the client is going to be based in this autonomous region, do you mind if we do it in another one? Because he said, and it's typical of Spain, in fairness, it depends which tax office, which autonomous region you go to. It depends how you interpret the rules, whether they're more flexible or they're more stringent. So it's not even uniform across the country.
Yeah,
It's just it depends on which office and which region you're in, how they're going
yeah,
to apply the rules. But this we see it across a whole, across a lot of areas where the rules are applied differently depending on the region, and the same with these visas.
yeah. I was thinking that tax, I was thinking we've had conversations before. I remember, Paul, and the accountants in Spain, they even say to us, well, how they define a certain rule and how they interpret it, a certain rule, and how certain income is declared in one region made different to another region just by how they see it. So it makes things complicated. Let's I think that's say the least. And I think for those looking to come to Spain, I think when it comes to the visas, I think there's the non-lucrative visa, you can do it on yourself, but I think taking the guidance of a professional is worth it. And I know you've said in the past as well, Paul, we see so many people and they want to save a small amount by doing things themselves. And what happens in a lot of those cases? They cost themselves a lot.
And Matt, they come back and they want us to fix something which is now broken and
Yeah,
irreparable.
yeah,
And they come to us and they're expecting a magic solution. And very often they still don't want to pay, but they've just scored an own goal and cost themselves a lot of money.
yeah,
So I mean, we don't cater for that market. For people who
yeah,
don't value advice and don't understand the benefits, we're not there to serve that market. They have to go elsewhere because we're here to provide professional guidance and advice and to get PAC advice and make sure that, things stand the test of time, unless the laws are changed retrospectively.
yeah.
We have no control over that. But otherwise, no, we are not in that segment of the market. Um, we
No,
have
if
to
somebody
be.
came to us, yeah, it's not a case of saying, okay, we can help you get your visa, we do the paperwork, whatever, and then we say goodbye. For me, that's not a professional approach because it's not as simple as doing that and then 2 months down the line said, oh no, we only did your visa for you. I think there's a lot of advice that goes with that, and as you say, for people who recognize that or appreciate that, they would likely will save themselves a lot of money. But no, I think there's a big difference between professional sound advice as opposed to a couple of people I spoke to and you give them the advice and they say, oh, but I read on Facebook that you can do this. Okay,
No,
then go follow the stranger on Facebook and see what
exactly.
happens.
I mean, we provide individually tailored, holistic, high quality, pragmatic advice. And we're almost a family office approach where we hold the client's hands throughout the journey. So you're right, Matt. If they just want a quick fix and they just want a patch-up job, then it's not us. They have to find a patch-up artist that can meet their needs and demands. But we're not interested in serving clients like that because inevitably it will end up horribly wrong, and we will be a party to that problem, and we don't want that.
No. But the good news is for those who are watching this, and if you're watching a webinar that's titled Visas in Spain, there's a good chance that you're looking at your options or thinking about moving to Spain. For those who want somebody that's going to help them through that process, give them the advice that's required in the UK and Spain, and make that process make what is potentially a very kind of stressful process, moving countries, moving home, make it a lot smoother for you. So if that is the case and you think you would benefit from that service, please reach out to us and we're more than happy to have an initial conversation and see if that's the case and that we can help you with that journey. But other than that, you're here on our YouTube channel, so keep watching. Please subscribe, share with any friends or individuals that you know are interested in this, and feel free to leave us any comments and we will get back to you. But for now, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.